A very good day to everyone. My name is Suman. I'm on behalf of my team members to explain about the humanistic approach theory. So now I'm going to focus on introduction as well as the history of this humanistic approach theory. So basically, I'll be giving out some brief introduction about this theory in terms of developing and assisting people to develop their mental health. Mental health. Right. Okay. So this humanistic approach theory, it is a type of psychotherapy that focuses the necessity of being one's authentic self in order to live in a happy and reliable life. Moreover, it particulars on the idea that everyone has their own unique way of living perspective in their own life, in their own particular life. Right. So next will be it also proves that each decisions and actions by yourself has its own influence. So therefore, this approach clearly indicates that everyone is naturally nice and capable of making good decisions for their own self. So this theory also specifies that we as individuals have free will and we can actually actively grow up and develop ourselves to the highest potentials towards the self-actualization. So next will be the history. So basically, I'm going to give you some sort of information on how does this humanistic approach theory formed and how did this theory reaches to the people and followed by its revolution, right? Okay, so there is no accurate research or findings that indicates who does invented this theory. Yet there is someone who evolved a hierarchical theory of human motivation called uh, Abraham Maslow, followed by Carl Rogers, who is a theorist who publishes a theory called person-centered therapy, which focuses on sharing human personalities. Yeah. So, revolution of this theory took place in 1960 when reaction of psychodynamic and behavioral approaches happen and lead to the enlargement of this theory called humanistic approach theory. So now you can ask me what happened during this revolution period. All right. So when 1961 is their first revolution, where the first humanistic psychology journal was published, and followed by 1962. They launched an association of humanistic psychology funded by Brandeis University. So basically, most of the psychologists during that era was using this theory to actually assist their clients dealing with negative thoughts and guiding them to make their own healthy choices, which promotes their overall well-being. Right. So that's about the history. So I'll pass on to my next colleague. He will be explaining about the theoretical assumptions. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Adrian, and I'm going to continue my points from my colleague Suman about theoretical assumption. And my first point is that experiencing is central. That means like feeling it, thinking it is important about solving your client's problems. I mean, you as a counselor, you need to understand the experience of your clients in order to solve their problems. And then my next point is that the subjective experience of the individual is the primary indicator of behavior. That means like because every client will have a different kind of humanistic behavior, right? So of course, humans are made unique. So counselors need to understand that it is very important to not compare between your clients because all of them have different humanistic behavior. And that is what I mean from that point. And my next point is that an accurate understanding of human behavior cannot be achieved by studying animals. That means if your subject of your study is your client, then you should focus on your client more than focusing on other clients. That means you cannot focus on two stuff at the same time because it will mix things up, right? Because you need to focus on your current client, and if your study is about your current client, then you should not mix up with other clients, right? And then the next one is free will exists. Then, in my opinion, this is about how humans have their own free will. That means if the client thinks that um, he wants to do it this way, then you should, as a counselor, you should advise him, but still reminds him that it is his life and he has his choice to do, and all things that he done is based on his own actions, and he would take responsibilities of his actions. And the next one is that all individuals are unique and are motivated to achieve self-actualization. Self-actualization in this point is that means that a certain client that would like to achieve their maximum potential. For me, I would call it as limit test, because they would like to know where is their limit, and they would feel like, oh, they are not doing enough, so they will do more, they will do better. So when they are doing this type of limit testing, we as counselors should encourage them to limit test, because only then you will know that maybe you are weak at this point, or you are strong at this subject, or anything such as that. And the next one is people have different experiences when they were child, so they will be good if their child experience was good. So in my opinion, in this state, is like because everyone's childhood experience is different, right? And because everyone has a different sets of parents, different kinds of situation that they live in, and meet all kinds of friends. So in my opinion, the interaction between the clients and his life from the childhood will definitely affect himself. And I think that we as counselors should not think that every client is the same, and we should defer them, as we need to understand about their childhood experiences. If they were to open up about their childhood experiences, we as counselors needs to listen and take notes, so we should know that what the clients have gone through, and what what the experiences that have made them become. Okay, and then the next one is each person and experience are unique. So psychologists should treat each other individually and not in groups. I heavily believe in this because every people have their own humanistic behavior and their own personalities. So we as counselors and psychologists should not do do please do not rely on group exams or group tests to determine the level of mental health between the clients, and we should also do an individual test, because I've seen that some psychologists and counselors do this a lot in order to shorten their time in handling these clients, but then it's not effective as it looks. Okay, so we as counselors need to make sure that we do this type of group tests and also individual tests in order to understand the humanistic behavior of the clients. that is all for me from theoretical assumption, and I would like to pass up to my next colleague to explain about techniques or skills used in the theory.
Hey everybody, my name is Shamira and I'm going to be presenting the next slides, which is technique or skill used in this theory, which is humanistic approach. Okay, as we know, humanistic approach actually gives out the idea that everybody is naturally being nice and are capable of making a good decisions for themselves, where we used to recover every individual's complication to make the right choice for themselves. Well, meaning is every therapist have their very own technique and skills to make sure that their client is in a good hand, and also where they can develop the full of potential that I've mentioned it earlier in the slides. So basically there are three types of techniques in this theory, which is the first one is Gestalt therapy, the second one is existential therapy, and the last one is client-centered therapy. So let's look into the very first technique, which is Gestalt therapy. So as far as I comprehend, these skills actually gives attention to every individual to make sense of their world and also experience. To illustrate, rather than talking about past issues to the clients, a Gestalt therapy can actually ask the client to imagine the issue which is present, so that the therapist can talk to that client indirectly whether they can solve the problem or not. So it all depends on the therapist on how they want to confront every client with having positive thoughts and opinions towards their problem. Okay, so moving on to the second technique, which is existential therapy. So as far as I'm concerned, I've mentioned in the slides, which is points on how we understand our clients' positions when we consider human nature to be flexible and open-minded. Like, for example, therapists can ask questions regarding human nature to the clients where it is very open-minded, like we ask directly to them. So this is a technique that we confront clients by asking questions regarding human nature, like, for example, who am I, and what is the purpose of my life, what am I doing in the life, and how should I live in my life, and extra. So this is what I understand from existential therapy, where we learn to obtain responsibility for choices they make, to realize the freedom they have to change for their life. Alright, so for the third one is client-centered therapy, where it is a therapy that gives an environment that supports client where they can reinstate their identity. This means that we need to focus on every human behavior that was not consciously aware to the client. On the other hand, this approach wanted people to focus on every aspect of their life that were part of their self-awareness. And basically, there are three more skills mainly under client-centered therapy, which are unconditional positive, empathy, and also non-directiveness. So for the unconditional positive, where we as a therapy need to encourage our clients by pouring positivity opinion after they express their feelings. So for empathy, I would say it's a skill for showing some understanding of the client's emotions, like we feel sorry for them, like we feel sorry for them to have that kind of situation in their life, so that client doesn't feel lonely to feel this alone. And that's what we are as a therapist, obviously. And last but not least, for non-directiveness, this helps the client to take personal responsibilities for his or her. And last but not least, for non-directiveness, this helps the client to take some personal responsibilities for his or her own issues, as well as encourage him or her by giving some time, empathy to think through the issues that being talked about, so that they will know the solution on how to solve their problem easily, and also have a good idea to overcome their fear of dogs. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hello and hi, my name is Nur Shamimi and I'll be explaining about the applications of the theory. So in this theory, it has 3 types of therapy. The first one is Gestalt therapy. So in short, Gestalt therapy is one of the humanistic approach. It helps clients to solve any big issues in their lives. This therapy also develops a safe environment for clients. It also helps to eliminate stuff that is troubling the client's mind. So for the problem 1, Gestalt therapy were applied. It consists in the construction of a secure environment for the client, as well as the removal of items that are causing them distress. For example, in one scenario, a college student wants to drop out due to severe stress and inability to cope with the hectic lifestyle. Parents and teachers are, on the other hand, were unconcerned about the students' feelings and did not take them seriously. Obviously, the student would be apprehensive, and negative thoughts would infiltrate the student's mind, encouraging negative thoughts. As for the conclusion of the problem, the therapist would advise the student to visualize the situation and say out everything, especially the things that were not able to be voiced out. When using Gestalt therapy, a therapist should encourage the client to be more assertive and collaborate with the therapist to help them focus on themselves. The therapist should not only encourage the client to focus completely on expressing their feelings, but also to make them feel that they are more important than anybody else.
Aside from using Gestalt therapy for humanistic approach, there is another thing called person-centered therapy, or also can be called as client-centered therapy. So this therapy is mainly used for a person who is developing early signs of crisis, and it aims to provide comfort for people and to make a person feel non-judgmental for themselves. For instance, let's take a student who is pursuing her degree and she had worked hard enough to get good results. However, her results were quite disappointing and she kept on doubting and also questioning her own effort. And not only that, the person around her also mentioned how her hard work is not hard enough. So this can lead to the student to feel worthless and make her feel judgmental towards herself, questioning why did I do this when the outcome will be this. What a counselor would do is the counselor would persuade the student using positive approach, such as using nice words or giving feedbacks on her results or whatever, in order for the students to evaluate herself and make her effort worthy enough. This can increase the student's pleasure and make her feel non-judgmental towards herself. So through this, you can see that person-centered therapy mainly focuses on giving comfort and making a person feel like they are themselves, and also making a person feel like they know themselves more than anyone else. So for the student case, the students will feel like, oh, I do know how hard I work and other people don't know, so I should evaluate myself, not anyone else. So that is what person-centered therapy aims for. So lastly, for using humanistic approach, there is also existential therapy. So existential therapy is basically using a positive approach just like the other two, but at the same time they are keeping a realistic awareness towards the patient, towards the client. So usually existential therapy is mainly or commonly used for people who are suffering from psychological illness or people who are making important decisions. For instance, people who are suffering from depression mainly takes harmful substances for themselves, such as drugs. So let's say there is this patient or client that is taking harmful substances for themselves, be it alcohol or drugs, in order for him to escape reality. So what a counselor would do with this person is, the counselor would find out why did the person chose to take harmful substances instead of using a positive method, such as going for meditation or whatnot, a counselor will try to find out by regularly interacting with the client. And then counselor will have to change the negative thoughts into a positive ones. So basically, the counselor will have to persuade the client into thinking there are better alternatives than taking harmful substances. So for this type of therapy, there is no specific method to changing the client's mind. Instead, the counselor just have to remain positive and be very, very, very patient to change the client's negative thoughts into positive ones, because it will be very hard. Basically, existential therapy aims to make a person embrace lives beautifully without any fear, without thinking about anyone else. And also, as the word existential exists, existential therapy is aims to make a person know or believe in themselves, believes in their own existence. That is existential therapy.
A very good morning to everyone. My name is Nisha Miller, and my part for this presentation is criticism. The first point is criticism may lead an individual to be negatively impacted by any criticism, even when that criticism is constructed and intended to be helpful. Criticism can sting in any situation, whether the individual criticized believed in the truth of critical comments or knows such as comments to be false. The second point is, when confronted with criticism, anxiety, depression, anger, embarrassment, or strong defensiveness may indicate a high level of sensitivity. For an example, it may be beneficial to discuss this sensitivity with a therapist or a mental health expert if one finds it difficult to cope with. So, going for the third point, hurt feelings are nearly always natural when it's come to criticism. So, for an example, a person who has been punished by another can often reflect on what was said and deduce the facts from any personal remarks included in the criticism. For a variety of reasons, some people are more sensitive to criticism than others. So for the last point is, certain childhood events may result in increased sensitivity. So for an example, a youngster who had problems getting along with peers, who has gotten positive reinforcement for successes, or whose sense of competence and confidence who has not been cultivated or allowed to flourish, is likely to have difficulty accepting and processing criticism in a healthy manner. Furthermore, if a parent has overly high expectation for a child or shields them from failure or criticism, the youngster may become more sensitive to criticism. So that's all for my part. Thank you.
So for the conclusion of the Carl Rogers theory, humanistic approach is a sort of psychotherapy that emphasizes the need of being one's real self so that it will stay a satisfied life. To broaden the vision in terms of humanistic technique concept, Carl Rogers published a principle referred to as character-focused remedy meeting by using Abraham Maslow and Clark Mustakas with professionals. Then the method principle grows to be accelerated because of the reaction of psychodynamic and conduct mastering processes. It encourages convalescing substance customers to take an energetic function in their healing and come up with their own solution on a way to stay substance loose. So that's all from us. Thank you.